Hi neighbor, I'm Isabella Riley. We're gathering up here for finals at App State. I speak with our mental health ambassadors about resources for final week. Then our host, Taylor Holt, explores the new Legend Study Area and other great areas to study for on campus. Join us as we say, hi neighbor.
All right, good morning, everyone, and hi, neighbor. My name is Isabella Riley, and this morning I am Zooming Chris Hogan, who is the Director of Counseling and Psychological Services Center for Appalachian State. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Isabella. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Glad to be able to come in and talk with you a little bit about mental health during exam time.
Yeah, so we can just go ahead and jump right into that. So what are some resources on campus that students can use for improvement of their mental health during exam week?
Okay. Well, I think a lot about just, comprehensively, how do we help ourselves during exams? And we know that there's a lot of factors that play into how we might experience stress or how we might worry about exams. And so just a few resources. I'll talk a little bit about the counseling center, but before I do, I'll mention a couple of other really good resources. But the Student Learning Center has some great resources regularly, but also if you check out their website, they've got some really good resources and strategies and tips for a tool to use around planning final exams and studying for final exams and time management tips and study tips. So those are really helpful. I think part of managing stress around exams is to be able to feel like you can be prepared for things. And so the Student Learning Center has some great options and resources. Our Wellness and Prevention Services also has resources. I'll mention We Coach, which is peer-to-peer coaching, usually 30-minute meetings. And so if you are looking just to try to maybe get some strategies, learn what some of your peers may be doing, just talk through some issues, We Coach, I think, is a really good resource through Wellness and Prevention Services. And then we've got the Counseling and Psychological Services, the Counseling Center. So we have a variety of different services. I'd point you to our website, counseling.appstate.edu. But we have a few of our services. We have something called Let's Talk, which is, it doesn't require an appointment ahead of time. We have times throughout the week where we have counselors available that if a student is just looking to talk through a problem, may not be interested in ongoing counseling, but just wants to talk through an issue, then Let's Talk, which is really called Let's Teletalk, this semester during the pandemic times, but it's a way to get in and engage and talk with a counselor just to work through an issue without ongoing counseling. We have a lot of our groups that we have some groups called, for example, our Anxiety Toolbox group, which is really popular. It's a little bit more like a class, about 3 sessions, and students can get started with that right away when they come in and get started with the counseling center. The way to get started is to schedule an initial consultation by phone. And all you have to do is call the counseling center and you'll schedule an appointment. We've been getting students in within a day or two. It's pretty quick. And we'll learn a little bit about what the concerns you have are, and then we can recommend a variety of different services. And that might include one of our groups, as I mentioned, like Anxiety Toolbox, or we also have individual counseling that's available. And then I also wanted to mention too, on our website, we have a button for self-help resources. And so there's a lot that we have. We keep those updated. There's lots of great information. There's apps, recommendations for different types of concerns. So anxiety, tips for sleep. So some do's and don'ts around sleep, which I know can be a factor around exam time, stress management, time management, a lot of self-help information, things that could be helpful for students. So I think that's a really good resource too.
So what are like your top 3 tips for all our viewers listening that have a final exam online? I know a lot of students are nervous about that since it's on a different platform than they're used to.
Well, I think one of the things is to just think about making sure that you have a space that is conducive to being able to take a test. So planning ahead of time. So a lot of the tips I'll mention are just sort of planning ahead of time. I always think about, well, we can, let's control what we can control. There are some things that we can't, but we can control hopefully the space where we're in. So trying to make arrangements to have a quiet space, a space that's free from lots of distractions, so that we really get into, okay, this is our mode of I'm taking a test now, and it's not lots of other external stimuli that might distract us. Make sure that we do some prep ahead of time, of course, studying ahead of time, but also if we're able to have some materials with us during the exam, just make sure that we gather those, think through ahead of time what we might need for ourselves. And then I would say that the other piece would be if you do have flexibility about the time that you take the exam, which sometimes might happen with an online exam, then just making sure that you plan ahead of time. Go ahead and schedule that for yourself. When am I going to take that exam? And so make sure that that's a part of your planning for the final exam period. So I think those would be the 3 tips that I would recommend.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. All of our viewers, make sure you go onto all those websites and check out some tips, and make sure that your mental health is really something you're focusing on exam week. So until next time.
Thank you so much, Isabella, and thank you everyone for.
Thank you guys. Bye, neighbor.
Hi neighbor, I'm Taylor Holt. The end of the semester is near. Join me today in Legends, event venue turned study area. I'm here with Alexis Simpson, Facilities Coordinator. Thank you for your time today. Could you tell me a little bit about how the Legends study area works and like how can students just come in and use it, or do they have to sign up to come in?
So the Legends Lounge is open and free to all students. You don't have to sign in or use your app card or anything. It's open from 11 to 11 Monday through Friday, so students can just come in at any time and stay all day if they want to. We just have this space open for students to study and a place for students to do their online classes that is not their dorm. It's just kind of like an extra space where students can come in at any time they please and just hang out and study if they choose.
Okay, how many people can be in there at a time?
Our max capacity is set at 100, but usually we have no more than like 4. I think the max that we've had at any given night has been like 40 people. It's a pretty open, big space, so there's plenty of room for people to spread out. And we have pool, we have several tables and chairs, so it's a pretty easy space to like spread out in.
Okay. And if a group like wants to come in and study together, is there a max limit on like a number of people that could come in together to study?
We try to have it at 4. I know there's been some groups of 6. Usually if there's a group of 6 that come in, we try to have them at 2 tables so it's like easier to spread out. But each one of our tables has a max of 4 chairs, so we try to keep it at at a group of 4 people.
Okay. Lastly, is this just going to be open for finals, or do you see it being kind of open for a study area next semester as well?
So our last day for this semester is going to be November 24th, so we won't be open during exams, but the student union will be open for exams. Next semester, if the university is opened as it has been this semester, we plan to keep our hours the same, and we plan to be open throughout the whole semester.
I think that's about it. Thank you so much for your time today. With finals right around the corner and COVID dragging us down this semester, don't lose motivation yet. Make use of this wonderful study area. Until next time, bye neighbor.
Hi neighbor. Welcome to Theater and Dance Today. As always, Professor Derek here, and today I'm joined by Hannah McGee, a senior performance major and cast member of Waiting for the Host, an online play which is directed by Paulette Marty. Well, thanks for being here, Hannah. Welcome.
Of course, yes.
So, Waiting for the Host is a play written to be put on Zoom,
Yes.
given the current events and things like that. Give us a little bit about what it's about.
Okay, so it's split up into 2 acts. In the first act, they're trying to produce a passion play over Zoom. There's only one actor aboard the crew that's trying to put together this beautiful play. And it just does not go planned. And everyone's kind of tense just because situations that come up with COVID and just hijinks ensue because nobody really knows how to handle what we're going through right now.
Yeah, it's not bad enough that we actually spent the semester learning how to do plays online,
Yes.
but this is a play about
A play online.
learning how to do it online, right?
And then the second act, they have an idea to do another play about creation. And so they create a beautifully written piece about Genesis and the creation of the world. And it's just hilarious.
Right, I was going to say, I bet that doesn't go well, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
So do any of these characters know what they're doing, or is this one of the, are they theater people, or are they just like?
Oh, goodness, no. There is one actor aboard, Sarah, who declares she's SAG eligible, and she makes a big deal about it. But the other people, A, have no idea what SAG is,
Right.
and B, could not care less. And then we have the father who is trying to rally us all together. And then my character is Effie, who's a mid-50s retired woman who technology is just not for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we might mention that SAG is Screen Actors Guild,
Yes, yes.
which is professional actors, which I might have been a member of. Yeah, so how is it working? Now, you guys are rehearsing online for the, how is that different than, say, rehearsing in person?
I think one of the big, like, things that we've had to kind of conquer is the connection that you create. Because it's so much easier to have that person to person. And over a screen, like even in acting classes, it's hard to find that connection because you're not in the same room. But we've found ways to develop connections with each other, and there's little moments in the show where you can tell who's looking at who and who's communicating with who, even if they're not speaking. Yeah, and just kind of reflecting what a normal Zoom would look like, where everyone's kind of doing their own thing and not really paying attention. Not that I wouldn't pay attention in a class per se, but yeah, it's been very interesting to try and find that genuine connection, I would say.
Sure, and that's the trick, isn't it? Is to make it look like it's a real Zoom
Yeah.
meeting, even though it's. So I wanted to ask you, because you're deprived of the human-to-human contact, you know, the physical contact. Have you had to work more on the relationships of the characters, so that there's something to grab onto? Is that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Very early on in the whole rehearsal process, we created timelines for our characters and interweaved them with each other. And Paulette is amazing, and we did all sorts of improvisations within these timelines. And things aren't even scripted. We just kind of created to morph these characters into like real human beings. And it ended up creating really strong relationships with the characters. And I have one of the characters, Vincent, I've kind of picked up as like my grandson per se, because he just does things, and I'm like, Vincent, come on.
That's funny.
And I try and communicate with him via the very stereotypical, you need to stop, eye contact over a Zoom screen, and he picks up on it, which is just so cool that that's still happening over a screen.
Right, so you're finding ways to kind of communicate via the video medium.
Yeah.
Plus you still have tone of voice. How many people are in the show?
Oh, goodness.
Ballpark figure. Ballpark
Seven.
figure.
It's seven of us,
Okay,
yes.
good. You've been working on it how long now?
Oh, goodness. Well, they're people to me. They're not characters anymore.
Right.
So.
And when did you guys start rehearsing?
Oh, another hardball question.
Okay, we don't mess around here.
Mid-October, I'm pretty
Mid-October?
sure. Yeah. So we've been working on it for a pretty long time.
So you've been able to work on it like a regular production with, you know, regular rehearsals and things like that. Again, I'll ask you, even though the schedule is regular, how is it different in that you're not going to a theater or going to a place to work, you're kind of working from home?
It's very different, but very similar in a lot of ways. It's odd whenever you're getting ready for rehearsal and you're like, oh wait, I don't have to leave my apartment.
Right.
And so it's difficult to find a new place, a new mindset whenever you're in the same room that you've been in all day. But it's also at the end of rehearsal, you're like, huh, I'm already home.
Right.
So
Right.
it's great.
But knocked out, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
There's this thing, after rehearsal, it doesn't matter if I'm watching, I'm dragged, I have to eat something, and I have to go to bed.
Yes.
Well, just a couple other questions. So you playing a 50-year-old woman
Yes.
on TV. That's a challenge. How have you addressed that?
Well, not to name names, but I have plenty of inspiration just from people around me. Also, I grew up in the church, and so
Oh, yeah.
just all of the mid-50s church ladies, that's just who I am in the show.
Right.
And it's been very fun to find my Effie and to find similarities between who Hannah is and who Effie is. Even though I'm 21 years old, sometimes I have the mindset of a 55-year-old woman.
We won't let that out.
No.
Well, it sounds like you guys are having a lot of fun, and it should be a
yes.
really, really good work. So there you have it, Waiting for the Host, an online play by Mark Palminieri. The original stage on the online stage on November 19th through the 22nd at 7 p.m. You can tune in to see Hannah and other student performers bring these characters to life, and it's being directed by our very own Professor Paulette Marty. And the links can be found at www.theateranddance.appstate.edu. Again, that's November 19th through the 22nd at 7 p.m. I'm Professor Derek, and I hope to see you online at the theater.
That's all for this week's episode. Be sure to take advantage of all the Finals Week resources our campus has to offer. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at AppTV for more student-made content. See you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Until then, bye, neighbor.